for the magic moment.
There it is.
Okay. Mr. Brown, I rather anticipated that you would have a big smile on your face as the producer, one of the producers of The Verdict, because the advance reaction to the picture has been really marvelous.
More than we could ever have anticipated. I should say, as much as we hoped, because it has been extraordinary, and we're very grateful for that. Film to be proud of. Mr. Zanuck and I are very proud of the work Mr. Lumet and his fine company of actors did.
Originally, though, this was going to be a Robert Redford project, wasn't it?
Indeed it was, and a Dustin Hoffman project, and maybe a Roy Scheider project, and a lot of other actors, but particularly Robert Redford, who stepped forward and wanted to do it, and would have done it, but that Jim Bridges, who was our director at the time, and Robert Redford couldn't really get together on their vision of what the character was. And they broke up. And regrettably, we were back to square one, and fortunately, Sidney Lumet was available, and Sidney had one actor in mind, Paul Newman.
And I guess then Lumet and Newman just always saw eye to eye, or?
Yes, with the usual exchanges between actors and directors, but Paul Newman got that character. I mean, it was, Sidney Lumet said, it's a very vulnerable character you're playing, Paul. You're going to have to let all your nerve ends show. It's that which attracted Paul Newman to the David Mamet screenplay. He knew that this was not being a movie star, this was being a great character actor, which is what Paul Newman likes to do most.
And does so very well.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I just would be willing to bet any amount of money right now, Mr. Brown, that he's going to get an Academy nomination. And I'm even willing to bet a fair amount that he'll be the winner. Do you have that feeling?
I don't dare have the feeling, but I sure have the hope and the prayer.
But look, it's got to be his turn pretty soon.
I know. If there's justice, it's like Frank Galvin. I believe I should say to the Academy, I know that there's justice in your hearts.
In doing this project, did you get to know Newman pretty well yourself?
Richard Zanuck and I know Paul Newman. We were responsible for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. We were the executive producers on The Sting. We've worked with Paul Newman on some projects that didn't come to fruition, so we know Paul Newman professionally and admire him personally.
Is it a close personal relationship? What I'm getting to is that you're probably well aware that he won't even talk to the television press. He will talk sometimes to the print press. But what is it about Mr. Newman that prevents him from, sitting right where you're sitting now and talking to us?
He's very private, Bobbie. I know that may sound funny, but when you go into a restaurant and you're Paul Newman and you're with your wife or with your children, and every 10 minutes somebody comes up and says, I've seen you in The Sting. It may seem like wonderful flattery and everything else, but it's very trying. And he feels that he makes a statement as an actor, and he doesn't enjoy that exposure very much. He will do it for political reasons. He's done some television on behalf of the nuclear freeze. He'll do it on those reasons. He did Phil Donahue. He's done some other shows. But on a one-to-one basis, it's tough to get Paul to do that. He did some work on location in Boston for us because he's very proud of it. But he just exhausts himself in the making of a movie. And if you want to see him, go to an auto race.
You think maybe if I stood by with the camera...
I think maybe if you were the editor of whatever the magazine is that covers racing very seriously, and you didn't talk to him as a movie star, you might get an hour with him.
All right, I'm going to file that away if he ever gets close enough. There is a story, I don't know if you've read it, in today's Sunday paper, that says the verdict would not hold up in court. Have you read that story?
I read that story, and I disagree with it to such an extent that I'm going to ask Barry Reed, the author of the book, The Verdict, who is himself one of the most distinguished medical malpractice lawyers in Boston and has won many awards, and who was our technical advisor, to respond, because the author of that story, a lawyer for the Daily News of New York, evidently didn't realize that in the film itself, the rebuttal witness was disallowed, which was one of his points. As for the size of Kincannon's staff, I can assure you that occurs when an archdiocese wants to make sure that a case is won. And I'm trying to remember one of his other points. I didn't agree at all. I'm not a lawyer, but Barry Reed is. And we've had a number of lawyers see this movie. And with the exception of some nitty-gritty, like I place this as Exhibit A in evidence, and where you see that it's properly noted, which you eliminate, it was very, very true. And everything cited in the movie is correct legally in the state of Massachusetts. I don't know whether Mr. Burns knows Massachusetts law.
One of the points, Mr. Brown, was that Concannon could not have gathered the pretrial evidence without Galvin knowing it. That's one of the things, and that may be kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty.
No, I can respond to that. Jack Warden, as Mickey mentions to Galvin, who's drunk, saying, I've been doing all the legwork on this case. I gave you this case. This case will take care of you. And my impression is that Mickey Morrissey has been doing most of the work, even to meeting with the clients on behalf of his friend and protege, Frank Galvin.
And one of the other big points I remember was that there could not have been the surprise witness without Concannon knowing about it.
The whole point that Concannon makes in the trial is that that is contrary to law, and he objects to that. He says you cannot have a surprise rebuttal witness without advising us. That's a point in the movie that's covered. That's one of the points, and it's the judge who gives latitude to the surprise witness. But that is covered by, as a matter of fact, Concannon makes that very point in the movie, and as a result, the judge orders the jury to strike all the testimony on that basis. Two bases. One is the use of a Xerox copy. The two is the use of a rebuttal witness without advance notice.
Mr. Brown, I would say that you're not only a good producer, but you do your homework thoroughly. And I'm so happy I brought this up because a lot of people will read that, and so now they will, maybe the person who wrote that didn't look at the movie as closely as he should have.
I would think that before you did that, you'd have to see the movie a couple of times and analyze it. Obviously, some things are done for theatricality purpose. Yes, we could have had 3 lawyers instead of 20, but that wouldn't be much fun, would it?
Not near as much. Mr. Brown, lovely to see you again.
Thank you so very much, Bobbie.
Thank you for a wonderful interview.
Thank you for a wonderful interview. I enjoyed it.
My best to Helen.
And right back.
Pause tape.
And then questions, reactions.
Okay, we're on.
All right, questions. Originally, Robert Redford was going to do this. What happened? Are you prepared for Oscar nominations? There is so much talk that not only will Newman get a nomination, but that he will win. It's his time to win. What is your response to that? Newman, we know, is a fantastic actor, but he just, let me start over. Why is it that Paul Newman will not sit in this chair where you are and do interviews with members of the TV press? A story in the New York News, is it the Daily News? All right. A story in the New York Daily News says that the verdict will not stand up in court. One of the points made in this newspaper story is that the surprise witness could never happen. I believe that should do it. Thank you.
Cut tape.